Who's after Starmer? Literally, metaphorically, politically, or in any other way? I'm Lembit Opik here on @Unprecedented TV. We're going to answer that question.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people. Oh, how dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
Okay, you got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. That's exactly what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
That's our Prime Minister. Return of the sausages. And it never got any better, did it? It wasn't a misspeak, it was a misthink. And he's carried on doing it ever since. Yes, Keir Starmer is in massive trouble even while we're on air. He may have to resign, but I doubt that. He's going to cling on for as long as it takes for him to defend his position as Prime Minister. Should he be doing that is the question. Welcome to Lembit Opik Live here on @Unprecedented TV. Please do like and subscribe if you like our views, our news, and our truth. Joining me today is Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos, a man who's never knowingly undersold with his dramatic depiction of what he thinks. Dr. Papadopoulos, how are you?
Hello, Lembit. I'm doing very well, thank you. And thank you, as always, for having me on your show.
Don't give me that reasoned, sensible view. You're feared by many as a radical extremist, are you not?
Well, I wear that as a medal of honor.
Well, let's test you on that case. What is your view about the man who's hopefully, there he is, the man who's on the screen now, Keir Starmer? How do you feel he's doing at the moment? Is he going to save his job?
First of all, Lembit, the ancient Greeks had a saying, know thyself. To that, I would add, know thy enemy. In order to understand what is happening in Britain, one must first of all understand the actual structure of power in Britain. And once that knowledge is acquired, the next step is to understand the nature of the people who actually rule, not govern, rule Britain. That is why some of us, including myself, have for many years been able to accurately predict what is coming in Britain. So you ask me about Starmer.
I do.
Starmer is of no importance whatsoever.
He's the Prime Minister, Marcus.
Yes, officially.
Why is he not important?
Officially, he is the Prime Minister. But in reality, he is a mere puppet. The structure of power in Britain does not revolve around the Prime Minister and Parliament. No, it revolves around, first and foremost, the monarchy. It doesn't matter who is in Downing Street. And that has been proven beyond all doubt, because be it Johnson or be it Sunak or be it Starmer, and whoever replaces Starmer, if that is what will happen, will stick to the same agenda. Let us not forget that immigration is not something that started under Starmer. Immigration has been going on for decades. Millions came into Britain under Boris Johnson. So in regard to Starmer, he doesn't decide whether he will resign or not. No, the actual masters in Britain will decide.
Hold on, Marcus. I don't normally talk over you, but that can't be right. Keir Starmer has said, and he's been absolutely clear about this, I'm not going to stand down. I will defend my position. I will stand in a leadership election. He has been absolutely clear. What you're saying is diametrically opposed to what he's actually going to do. He said he will stand to defend his position.
Yes, he did. And let me remind you and the audience that not so long ago, Tucker Carlson gave an interview to BBC News in which he said that both Trump and Starmer are controlled, that both of them are not running the show in America and Britain, respectively.
Tucker Carlson isn't the font of all knowledge, Marcus.
No, he's not. But by now, at this juncture, it is so painstakingly obvious that throughout the Western world, these presidents and these prime ministers are not actually in power. They are puppets. One piece of evidence is this. In every single country in Europe, whether it's a conservative government or whether it is a liberal government or whether it is a socialist government, they all implement the same policies. For example, immigration, multiculturalism, feminism, etc., etc. They all say and do the same thing. How can that be? Is that really a coincidence? Of course it is not a coincidence. Starmer is doing no different to what Sunak did, to what Johnson did, and so on and so on. Look at what he has done in Britain. Look at what he has done abroad. For example, Ukraine. No different to Sunak, no different to Johnson. And what I am very encouraged about is that Rupert Lowe now, more or less from what I can gauge, more or less understands the actual structure of power in Britain, because he has highlighted the role of the permanent undersecretaries in each and every government department. He has made it very clear, as some of us have been saying for many, many years, that the permanent undersecretary tells the minister what to do. And look who the permanent undersecretary is. The permanent undersecretary is drawn from the aristocracy, and the aristocracy runs Britain in accordance with the wishes of the monarch. And I am so happy that we have now a very prominent member of parliament in the UK who sees the actual structure of power.
Who's that?
That is Rupert Lowe.
All right. Okay. Let me just challenge you on this. By the way, and we need to talk about the people who are going to replace Keir Starmer shortly, because obviously he's not going to survive. But are you saying whoever replaces him will be part of this same structure?
Absolutely. What is the difference between Starmer and Sunak? What's the difference between Starmer and Johnson, Starmer and Blair? Who, for example, introduced the Terrorism Act of 2000? A dreadful, draconian piece of legislation. That was Blair. Who has been introducing so-called hate crime legislation? Well, Starmer certainly has, but all of his predecessors did. Again, they are all part of the same club. It doesn't matter who is in Downing Street. The reality is they all serve the same masters. These are self-serving individuals.
All right, let's look at the individuals then. The favourite to take over from Keir Starmer has been, may not be for a while longer, this lady here. That could be the face of the United Kingdom around the world, Angela Rayner. And you might say it's unfair for me to use this picture. Well, okay, she's entitled to have downtime. But, you know, that's a problem with her, because there are other pictures of her, and there's one of them, when she's actually... Do you think she's part of the same clique? And what do you think she would be like as Prime Minister?
What more evidence does anyone need to realise that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is not in control? Look at Angela Rayner. How on earth could someone like her be Prime Minister? That is...
Because she could be elected by her party to do it.
And who are the MPs? Look at the vetting system. After Blair became leader of the Labour Party in July of 1994, he completely changed the selection process, whereby constituency Labour parties, the local Labour parties, no longer had complete say as to who they would elect as their prospective parliamentary candidate. They could elect someone, but if Labour head office did not like them, because, for example, they were someone like Tony Benn, they could reject them. So the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, the Liberal Democrat Party, the Green Party today only select candidates who adhere completely to the ideology, not just of those parties, but the ideology of the British state. For example, imposing multiculturalism, imposing immigration. Furthermore, look at the intellect, if I can use that word, of all of them in the House of Commons, apart from someone like Rupert Lowe, of course. How can it be that someone like Angela Rayner, or indeed Wes Streeting, can really be Prime Minister? Does
we'll
anyone
talk about
really...
Wes Streeting in a minute, but okay, so you're saying that she's not smart enough to be the Prime Minister?
Well, that goes without saying, doesn't it?
I didn't expect you to be that direct. That's your opinion, of course. I would love
the English language. Look at her command of the English language. I mean, it's absolutely appalling.
I would love to see her at a G8 summit. That'd be great. So, Angela Rayner, Prime Minister Rayner, what do you think of our view? You're scum.
There you go. Does she, if you were to put intelligence files before her, put together by MI5 and MI6, do you really, or does anyone really think that Angela Rayner would understand a word of it? Her command of the English language is so woeful, she wouldn't even be able to get past the first sentence. And even if she did get past the first sentence, she wouldn't have a clue as to what the first sentence is about.
Your blood sugar level's all right for this show today, I can tell you. So let me just check then before we move on from Angela Rayner. She wouldn't be your top pick to represent the nuclear armed British nation at the G8 summit as Prime Minister.
Well, if you say Trident to her, she's probably thinking about something on a motorway or in a pub or something like that. Personally, I wouldn't even employ her to mow my lawn.
You are massively on point today. All right. So you said, okay. First of all, I'm not laughing at Angela Rayner. I'm laughing at your depiction of her. Basically, you mentioned Wes Streeting. Then here's a picture of there he is, Wes Streeting with one of his pals, Peter Mandelson. What could possibly go wrong with Wes Streeting then? What's your view of him?
Well, this is where my tone will become more serious now, because I believe...
Make sure we don't get sued. We've only got one lawyer.
No, certainly not. The British ruling elite selected Starmer. Why? Because the man is soulless. The man is, in spiritual terms, dead. He has no morals. He has no ethics. He has no principles. There's nothing he won't do to please his masters. Indeed, on the 5th of July of 2024, in the early morning, I was at Heathrow Airport waiting to fly to Florida. Starmer had just won a landslide election victory, even though voter turnout was very low. But nonetheless, he had won a victory, a major victory. And I said on X and on Facebook that now hell on earth will come to Britain. This will be the most dangerous phase of the British ruling elite's agenda, because they needed someone to fulfill their agenda by 2030. And Sunak could not do it. And not all of their useful idiots in Parliament are willing to go the full length that someone like Starmer is. So why do I say that? If it's the case that the ruling elite believe that Starmer has, for example, served his purpose, they need someone like him. They need someone that will have no moral compunction in what they do. And I have said recently, I believe that person is Wes Streeting.
But Wes Streeting has got great friends. Peter Mandelson, who had no idea whatever that his pal, his best pal, let's remember that, Jeffrey Epstein, had done anything wrong, even though he wrote to Jeffrey Epstein in prison. So maybe my comment explains itself. Odd, to say the least.
Well, it does, but he's not. But Streeting is not the only one. So many of them have very, take West Streeting's past. In 2009, he took to what was then Twitter to not just express hatred for, I believe, a female journalist, but to talk about killing her, and in particular throwing her under a train.
Are you talking about this one? Are you talking about this particular item here?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I can't remember off the top of my head the name of the female.
I'm not going to name her again because it could be regarded as incitement.
Yes.
Deeply shameful Labour's West Streeting issues an apology for abusive, violent tweets. Labour leadership hopeful West Streeting has apologised after being condemned for abusive historic tweets, which have left questions over his ambitions to one day replace Sir Keir Starmer, reports David Maddox.
Well, if someone who is described as, quote, far right by mainstream media said that, regardless of how many years ago, that person would have no future of any kind whatsoever in politics.
Yeah.
But if you are part of the club, the Westminster Club, Labour, Liberal Democrats, Green, Tories, Reform even, you get away with it. So I suspect that if Starmer is told to resign, and of course resigns, I suspect the ruling elite will pave the way for Streeting. They need someone to implement.
Well, a man who said, let's push somebody under a train. He could be the Prime Minister. Really?
Well, he's still an MP. Up until recently, he was the so-called Health Secretary. So again, if Rupert Lowe had said that, had made those comments back in 2009, can you imagine what would be said 24/7 about him by mainstream journalists, by politicians at Westminster, by charities, by feminist organizations? It would be unrelenting. And yet, where were feminist groups to condemn Streeting? Where?
Hold that thought. I want to just remind you, we have some other great shows here, some fantastic presenters, not least of which, of course, is the head of the Freedom Association, and that is Tim Scott, a fantastic, insightful, and intelligent fellow who will look at the headlines so that you don't have to. And that is Tim Scott Uncancelled. Tim Scott Uncancelled. You'll get the whole back catalogue amongst the hundreds of shows we've done if you just like and subscribe for free at Unprecedented TV on YouTube. But back to Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos, and we're talking about West Streeting, who resigned as a cabinet minister, but perhaps slightly unwisely in my view. Breaking news: Streeting embarrassed by Mandelson friendship is one of the headlines from recently. I don't think that Streeting can actually get over the finishing line, because if he did have a sufficient number of nominees for him, nominators, of course, then he would have actually already put in his papers, wouldn't he?
Possibly. Excuse me, possibly. But I would just say, first of all, if Streeting is that embarrassed by the Mandelson friendship, then why doesn't he resign as an MP? Do the honourable thing and resign as an MP. But he doesn't. And in regard to the selection process, well, a selection process these days in either the Labour Party or the Conservative Party or whatnot counts for nothing. As I said, remember how Blair changed the selection process after he became leader of the Labour Party in '94. That is why at the 1997 election, which of course he won by a landslide, virtually every Labour MP who was elected, or newly elected Labour MP, was a Blairite. And they
was
were
he one of them? He wasn't one of them, though. This is long after Blair, wasn't it?
It doesn't matter, but the system is still in place. None of those MPs elected, Labour MPs elected at the 97 election, had anything in common with the likes of, for example, Tony Benn. No,
I thought
they were all
I
Blairite.
knew you'd mention him. He gave me a great piece of advice once in the members' tea room. I worked out one time with him that he drank in his life 53,000 gallons of tea. Never did him any harm. He said, Lembit, you should never wrestle with a chimney sweep, because if you do, you both end up covered in soot. Which is a great piece of advice. So I never sued anyone at the time. I'm more litigious now. Okay, so you've got people like Tony Benn, who you regard as principled, but not West Streeting.
Well, let me say this very quickly about Tony Benn, I should say. Tony Benn and Enoch Powell were very close friends. And when some people on the so-called left find out about that, they are absolutely appalled. But you see, Tony Benn and Enoch Powell both deeply loved Britain. They were both British patriots. They just had different opinions regarding the economic system which should be in place in Britain. So Tony Benn believed that it should be a state-run economy, whereas Enoch Powell believed it should be a free market economy. But they both fought in the Second World War. They both risked their lives defending.
Tony
Britain.
Benn acted as a soldier. Was he a soldier?
Tony Benn was in the Air Force, and Enoch Powell, yes, he was in the army. I don't think they saw that much action. But Enoch Powell returned from Australia, where he was lecturing. He was an ancient Greek scholar at the University of Sydney. He returned in 1939 to take part in the war. So again, people like Tony Benn and Enoch Powell were true parliamentarians. They were absolutely committed to Britain, absolutely committed to the British people. And look at how things are totally different now.
Okay,
they're all self-serving now.
Let me just stick with West Streeting. Here's another example of what he's saying. Where's walks, Starmer stays. That has Burnham got the momentum. The latest, it says. We've got Rayner, Streeting, Burnham, who isn't an MP. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Starmer, he's obviously finished now. Do you agree, or do you think that Starmer's got a future?
I have to be honest with you. I think for the time being, he will remain there because, as I said, he is the person to fulfill the 2030 agenda. So I don't personally see him going at the moment. No, I don't.
Despite headlines like this. I mean, this is The Guardian. I mean, basically, The Guardian, most of the mainstream media at the moment wouldn't be agreeing with you. Most of the mainstream media is saying that Starmer's finished, but he can be a caretaker until Burnham gets into Parliament. We'll talk about Burnham in a minute. But you think he can actually make it to 2029? Really?
Well, who cares what British mainstream media says? British mainstream media is neither independent nor free. On this occasion, mainstream media is putting out these sort of headlines and commentary to firstly maintain the facade that Britain is a parliamentary democracy, and secondly, to put on a distraction for the British people. If Britain was truly a parliamentary democracy, then Starmer would have resigned a long time ago. But it's not a parliamentary democracy. And as I said, no one cares what British mainstream media says. Starmer is absolutely loathed by the British people. Now, people could say that in her early years, Thatcher was also bitterly disliked. Well, yes, she was to quite a large extent. But
until she beat Argentina. Are you saying that Keir Starmer should declare war on Argentina?
Well,
or maybe follow his Chagos example and give the Falklands back to Argentina.
Well, I will say this, because I've studied the British ruling elite so closely for many, many years now. I know them like the back of my hand. And I don't say that in an arrogant way. We all have our own knowledge, we all have our own expertise, but I know them like the back of my hand. And it would not surprise me that in order for them to ensure that the agenda is achieved, they have to create some sort of crisis in the country in order, as I say, not to rock the boat. So for the time being, I believe that Starmer will stay. Of course, I'm not privy to what goes on within Buckingham Palace, etc., etc.
My team's forcing the issue here by putting this up. Miliband vows permanent shutdown of North Sea, but he's also a potential candidate. He said, I'm literally not going to stand for leadership again, or something like that. But he could be one of them. You actually, clearly he is, in my view, my opinion, a scientific ignoramus. I think he is completely ridiculous in his views about climate change. But leaving that aside, he's been touted as a potential leader again. What do you make of that?
Well, of course, because he's part of the club. And if you're a member of the club, of course, you know, your name will be put out there. Whether, of course, he is selected to be prime minister is, of course, you know, completely out of all of our hands. But, you know, again, Miliband, look what he said, threatening to shut down the North Sea. I mean, again, if this was a parliamentary democracy, this would not be happening. It's a farce, a complete farce. And I'm so glad, Lembit, that most of the British population are now aware that they do not live in a democracy whereby you are elevated to positions of power because of political ties or personal ties. You know, in simple English, it's an old boys club.
I never had that. I realise now. That's where I went wrong. Wrong school tie. Probably you as well. I probably couldn't even get a job in Sainsbury's these days on that basis. Just on that point then, so Ed Miliband, is he a credible candidate?
Well, in a parliamentary democracy, he wouldn't be employed even to be the tea boy at the Houses of Parliament. So I think that answers your question.
Well, okay. What about Andy Burnham, the favourite, the odds-on favourite, if he gets back into Parliament? There he is. I have to tell you, I think he's a pretty decent guy. I like him a lot as a person. Have you met him?
Well, he's a Blair. Well, I've seen him before at Labour Party conferences. He's a Blairite. He's a disciple of Tony Blair. Tony Blair is one of the worst war criminals alive in the world today. And Burnham is a disciple of this war criminal. Need I say any more?
Well, you've said quite a lot there. That's quite a challenging thing. We haven't got time to go into why you say that. And obviously, Andy, if you want to come back on the show, I'd be very happy to give you space. But Starmer will not block Burnham standing in the by-election, because what's happened is, and this all happened, if you're watching this live, this all happened yesterday, but Burnham found a member of Parliament to resign so that Burnham can stand. Presumably, that chap will now get a peerage for his trouble, but that's fair enough. Burnham is the odds-on favourite. And I have to tell you, I actually think he's a decent guy. You don't like him at all. This is one area, we normally agree, but this is one area where I think that you might be a little bit harsh on the guy, because I actually think he might be okay.
Doesn't he support the imposition of immigration? Doesn't he support the imposition of multiculturalism? Does he describe people with different views as, quote, far right? Why is he a disciple of Tony Blair? I judge people by whom they associate with, and anyone who associates with the likes of Tony Blair should have no political future of any kind whatsoever. Okay,
so, right, we've gone through the main candidates there. Just out of interest, I've got a couple of other people to ask you about. Of the ones we've talked about, Wes Streeting, Angela Rayner, and Andy Burnham, who do you think will take over, will replace Keir Starmer pretty obviously by the next Labour, in my view, the next Labour conference? Now, you don't think the timing's right. You disagree. You think he's going to carry on.
I think he will carry on.
Okay,
but
that's fine. No, that's fine. I don't want to force you into answering a question that you disagree with. But finish your point.
But should Starmer resign, I strongly suspect that Streeting will be installed in Downing Street.
Despite all of the problems that he brings with him from the beginning.
Well, it hasn't been a problem so far. Not only did he become a member of Parliament, not only did he remain a member of Parliament, but he also was brought into the cabinet as Health Secretary. So clearly, it doesn't matter what he said in 2009. Okay,
in which case, let's look at that one alternative, just one. Somebody who I used to share an office with. What about the Lib Dems? There he is. There's Ed Davey, Sir Ed Davey, like Sir Keir Starmer. What do you think about the Lib Dems' chances? I was speaking to somebody yesterday who said that she thought he would be leader of the opposition. There's an actual possibility of that, isn't there?
Well, you certainly know how to make me smile, Lembit.
I didn't make these photos.
No,
these are in the public domain.
Well,
you know what? It's not often I hear you so frustrated, so despairing of our political system, even though I know you're angry.
Well, I'm looking at the photograph you've put on the screen, and I'm thinking, am I watching a segment? Am I looking at a segment from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? I mean, and this is the leader.
If you haven't seen the film, I think it was 1976, one of Jack Nicholson's best ever performances, and Danny DeVito's in it too, by the way. And they actually probably need that nurse. What was the nurse's name? Oh, I can't remember the name.
I see her face, but I can't remember her name.
Yeah, it's like Nurse Truncheon or something. Anyway, yeah. Go on. Tell me what you were going to say.
Well, as I say, I mean, I look at that photograph and I think, am I watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? But doesn't that photograph, and of course there are other photographs of him behaving as the prat that he is in life, doesn't his public behaviour show that there is no seriousness in British politics any longer, because MPs no longer count in Britain any longer? Can you imagine an MP for Lembit in the 1980s, for example, behaving like that? If that was a Conservative MP, you know how Thatcher would have dealt with that person. So it just goes to
would have been toast. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it was my team says it was Nurse Ratchet.
Nurse Ratchet. That's right. Well, again, if you are elected as a member of Parliament, as you know this, Lembit, you should always act in a very respectable manner. Why?
Like this.
Have respect for your constituents.
Like
it is
this.
serious. There you go again. Another photograph of him behaving as a prat. But where is his respect for his constituents? Many of his constituents will have very serious problems. Being an MP is a serious job. You are dealing with people's lives. But he has no respect for his constituents. None of those MPs, apart from Rupert Lowe, have respect for their constituents, because
except that they won. They did pretty well in the local elections. They won tons and tons of seats in that part of London. So maybe that's what people want. Maybe you're wrong.
Well, unfortunately, in this part of the country, for example, in Greater London, people remain tribal. I believe it is a mental virus, because they look at, for example, the Liberal Democrats, and they believe that they are truly liberal and truly democratic. it just goes to show how still, sadly, a lot of people in Britain are brainwashed. But I think the main result of the recent local elections was, yes, Reform did brilliantly well. And whilst I despise the Reform leadership, I am very happy that the ordinary Reform candidates were elected, because these people will sooner or later come into conflict with Nigel Farage. But for me, the main takeaway was the stunning success of Rupert Lowe's candidates in Great Yarmouth, because they, each and every one of them, destroyed the Labour candidate, the Conservative candidate, the Liberal Democrat candidate, the Green Party candidate, indeed even the Reform candidate. And most of them got very close to 50%. So if Rupert Lowe, and I have some constructive criticism of Rupert Lowe in regard to he must put into place a proper structure in Restore. If he can do that, if he can find millions of pounds year in, year out to maintain Restore, then in simple English, it's game on. Because I believe a lot of people voted for Reform simply because there was no Restore Britain candidate in their areas.
I have to tell you that Sir Ed Davey in his constituency has the Lib Dems have 44 out of 48 of the local councillors. So there we go. I've got to ask you one last question. There's one other person, and this is a trick question. You've got to get it wrong. There's one person who was true to his profession, was amusing, was loved by many, and set a trend which to this day carries on, and in my view would be more credible. My view would be more credible than pretty much any of the people we've talked about to be the next Prime Minister of Britain. Who do you think I'm talking about?
We are, of course, talking about a Member of Parliament.
No,
we're not.
No. It's a cat. It's a real person, but he's not in British Parliament. You've got 10 seconds. 3 guesses. Somebody who would be taken more seriously than most of the people we've been talking about. 5 seconds. You won't get it.
No.
There he is. Charlie Caroli. He defined being a clown. Now we've got people who are clowns by accident. Do you think I'm being unkind?
Well, they're clowns by accident, but if you go to Ukraine, there's an actual clown who is president. And of course, I'm talking about Zelensky.
There he is. The 3 amigos.
Yes, the man who once imitated playing a piano with his penis.
That is, incidentally, so that we don't get sued by Macron or Starmer, Zelensky. That was actually his party piece. What bothers me is that you know that. Thanks very much indeed. The last question for you. Who will be leading the Labour Party in 6 months' time?
I say Starmer still.
He'll still be there. But you're being
so.
true. You're being true to your word. Thank you so much.
So.
Sorry, go on. Say again.
No, as I said, I could be completely wrong, but I suspect he will still be there.
Thank you. That is Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. You can agree or disagree. Put your comments into the comments. And please, if you like the conversation we've had, whether you agree with it or not, hopefully it has a degree of authenticity, then do like and subscribe to @Unprecedented TV. In the meantime, even probably by the end of the show, things will have developed. We will try to keep you updated. We're ruthless with news, gracious with views. I'm Lembit Opik, and that was Lembit Opik Live.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.